Hey everybody, I'm Ian Corzine, your social media lawyer. Today we're talking about how to legally start a big money business for yourself, for your online journeys. Why are you involved in social media if it isn't for a business purpose? That was some great advice given to me by my wife a long time ago, and I really adhere to it. And I want to teach you some of the 7 steps that it takes to be able to get your online business off the ground and also protect yourself. There's lots of people that are going to talk about the intricacies of what type of business, how you conduct your business on a day-to-day. This video is going to be all about the legalities that you need to be aware of in order to start your online business and be protected from problems with the government, lawsuits, problems with customers. That's going to be the focus of today. Spent a long time doing this, 20-year litigator, running my own law firm. So I have some experience in what to do and what not to do when you're starting your online business. So we're going to switch right to it. Let's get to it. The first thing, how do we get to this? First thing to do when you're going to start your next online business is to find your passion. You are going to be living with this business for hopefully decades. So you better like what you're selling or what service you're offering. The best thing I can think of, the best advice that I've ever been given about this is, what would you do in this world for free? What just drives you? What articles are you reading online? What blogs are you reading? What videos are you watching on YouTube and TikTok? Kind of categorize, spend some time categorizing these interests, figuring out what really makes you tick, and then move into the space of the small business within your passion. Next step in this, of course, is to look at others. What are others doing in this space? Understand that that's extremely important for you being successful in the business. You kind of don't want to reinvent the wheel. You don't want to necessarily do what's done before, but you want to see what is working within your passion space before you start an online business. So first step, I can't emphasize it enough, is to find your passion for your next online business. Once you do that, and I would suggest you take many, in my opinion, many months kind of narrowing this down, because this is a major life decision, like getting married, like having kids, like going to what school you're going to go to, big decision. Once you figure that out, then we move on to talking about your business name. Selecting a business name is really important. Here's why. In this atmosphere, we no longer have to necessarily worry about trademarks so much, but we have to worry about domain names, and we have to worry about searchability. So when you're just, you found your passion, your passion is photography, okay? And you want to sell cameras online, or you want to sell components of cameras online. Next step is to figure out what businesses, what names are out there. Do Google searches, go to the US Patent and Trade Office, figure out what trademarks have been registered, and then come up with your business name. That is extremely important, because that business name is going to live with you. After you get that business name, you want to do a lot of different things. You want to make sure the domain name is available for your business name, because these days, domain names are even more important than trademarks. We're using domain name histories as evidence that the person intended to use this mark and to fight off infringement lawsuits. So you want to do that. And then once you get that domain name, then you want to make sure that you file what's called a doing business as. There's various names throughout the world on this, but in your local governmental entity, it could be a city, it could be a county, it could be province, it could be a state, there usually is the ability for you to file that you are going to start doing business as this name. That's also further evidence that helps you justify, if you want to get a future trademark on that name, you have some good evidence that you were using this business name for a long period of time. Now I'm going to spend a moment going back and just saying hi to the room. I want to see who's joining us today. We got Pro Justice here. Good to see you, Pro Justice. Let's go. Let's do this thing. We also have Kim Leeming. Good morning, Ian. Hope you're having a great Saturday. Polyrhythm is here, and I think Polyrhythm is doing some beats or something. Allez, roulez. That's French, I believe. I don't know what roulez means, so maybe let me know in the comments. We've got Christian Nation. Hello from California. Good to see you. Yeah, I'm coming to you from Scottsdale, Arizona, so I'm not too far away. Good to see you, Christian. We also got Jackie Bai. Hey, Ian. Hello to everyone. Good to see you too. Twyla Barnett's here, and Gil. Paternal, good to see you. And then, of course, Polyribben's calling from Belgium. Good to see you, Polyribben. And watching from Canada. Good to see you, Gil. Good to see you today. All right, so let's get right to it. If you have any questions as we go forward on this presentation relating to starting your business, the 7 steps to get that business off the ground and to do it legally, please let me know in the comments section below. Also, if you like what you're seeing, please give me a thumbs up. That'll help me with the algorithm. So let's move on. Let's do some more stuff. Okay, switch it up. And here we go. All right. The other thing you got to be aware of, especially in, I think America, Canada, Australia, England, there oftentimes are licenses that are needed for your business. Now, we've talked about online business, but maybe you're envisioning a combination. Maybe you're going to have a food truck. Maybe you're going to have a local restaurant or a local shop, and then you're also going to have an online store. If you do that, in most jurisdictions, you're going to have to get a special license for that. And unfortunately, there's no consistency. In some states and some regions, they've never even heard of an alcohol license. In some regions, they would never dream of having you pay $12 a year for a business license. And then in some areas, like maybe where Kristen is calling from or watching from, in California, there's a license for everything. So what you're going to have to do is once you got your passion project, once you've come up with your name and you've registered it, you've got a DBA for it, you're considering maybe forming a corporate entity at some point in time, then you need to move on to the step at what licenses are necessary. The best place to do that is start at the beginning of your local government. Maybe go to your state Secretary of State's website, search business licenses in your locale. Maybe use Nextdoor. A lot of creators have come to me saying they're getting so much information using Nextdoor. They'll say, hey, I want to start a new bar. What licenses are required? And people love to volunteer their knowledge. So figure out that license. Generally, these licenses don't cost a lot of money, but it is important because what can happen is if you don't have that license, you can be shut down and you can lose that business by a governmental ruling. And you don't want that because it's over time, you may lose the ability to use your trade name, to use your business name. So that's really, really important not to do. All right, next. What step are we on now? Is this step 4? I can't see. I think it's step 4. The next step is to make sure you start a bank account. Now, a business bank account, that is. Certainly you have your personal bank account, but you need to have a business bank account. And the reason for that is you need to be able to justify later on to the IRS or whatever tax authority exists in your country, or God forbid you get sued, you wouldn't want that. You need to be justified that you were conducting this business as a formal business. And one way to do that is to lend some of your personal funds, put it in a bank account, and then, of course, secure that with a promissory note. In other words, pretend like you're loaning yourself some money. And so you have to sign, I agree to loan to photographybusiness.com $1,000, and you have to sign it as the personal representative, and then you sign it as the business owner. Then you bring that, of course, or you could bring that, maybe you don't need to bring that, but you could go to your local bank and say, listen, I have a DBA for my new business. I want to start a business bank account. And they will honor that. They will create this business account. And then using that initial $1,000 investment, that is what you're going to use to do everything for your new business. So that means buying equipment. That means maybe the cost of gas, searching out locations. That means maybe subscriptions to an online service for your new business. Everything must come out of that account. If there's ever a situation where you're exceeding the amount in your business bank account, and you're like, listen, I put $1,000 in, but I'm really going to need $5,000 to make this business work, then you're going to have to do another promissory note from your personal account so that you're justifying, you're saying, listen, these are merely loans. It's going to help you in the long run because when your business is making big money and getting successful, then what you'll do is you'll have your business pay back those loans and you'll be able to take business funds and send them back to your personal funds. And that is a good investment for you. So that's the first step when you're just starting out. You don't have a business entity. Overall, over time, you may want to create a business entity like an LLC or a corporation. And the value of that, of course, is that you can protect your personal assets from business liabilities. So you've kind of isolated those business liabilities. What are those? Payments on a vendor account. That means potentially a settlement in a lawsuit. Whoops, I just hit the thing. Advance. Payments on a vendor account, payments on a potential lawsuit, tax penalties, all those things. that would be the thing that you would have out of your business account. So you want to keep those things separate. And when you have a corporation, it's going to protect you from having your home or your personal possessions potentially liable for your business debts. In other words, if someone had to sue you on a business debt, they would sue your corporation, and they couldn't get at your personal, assets like your car and your home. So that's one of the reasons why you should consider over time moving to a corporate entity. But in the beginning, it's just important that you get that domain name, that you get that DBA, and that you start a business account. And that sets you up for later on in time when you want to move to a corporation or LLC, making it very easy. All that account is already set. All you got to do is change the name later on in time, and you have a good history of doing business. So those are the first, believe 4 steps. We're going to talk a little bit more. We got Ron Colvin here today. Good to see you. We got Quade Feller. Very, very nice to see you. Good. I like the emojis. We got Hel Rio. I don't know what I'm producing, but the name is there. Good. Hel Rio Co. That's his name. Awesome. Well, that's another thing. We should add this step. You should probably know what your business does. That's really good. We got Matthew Llewellyn. I obtained a Creative Commons license. One posts it to their description. Yeah, we could talk about Creative Commons a little bit later. That's kind of a portion about using copyrighted content without permission on your YouTube or maybe your podcast, those kinds of things. Happy to talk about that. We got Jasensal Life. I'm so excited to watch the replay to see everything I miss. Well, Jasensal, first of all, I like that you're using, looks like you're using essential oils. That's awesome. We would be happy to have you here, and we'd be happy to have you on the replay. Thanks for joining us today. Let's see. We got Polyrhythm. If your only business is selling a few things on eBay now and then, should I get a business bank account? Because I do not know if that would even be worth the cost, but it is necessary though. I think it's a necessary thing, Polyrhythm. I don't think it's going to be a costly thing. Honestly, it's going to take you looking online. I can provide it to you using a promissory note. There's templates all over the place, and you're going to pay a little bit of processing fees at your local bank account. But what you're really going to do is you're going to set yourself up for a big money business afterwards. If you decide to incorporate, if you decide to form an LLC, this is really going to help you later on in time. And it's also going to get you in the mind of really thinking about doing a business. I mean, this is serious. This is big boy stuff. This is not just, a lemonade stand where you're doing everything from personal funds. This is like, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to have a business bank account. It's not going to cost me too much more, but you're also going to get the benefit of potentially, if you work on one of our next steps, have a CPA, of being able to have write-offs from your expenses. So if you're going to be taking people out to discuss business, that is something that's a potential write-off and can be taken out of your business funds and not your personal funds. And you get a little bit of a personal benefit out of that. So it's not as just worrisome of just, I'm going to waste some money. No, it's good. It's a good practice. Anytime you have even a small business, a small hobby that's actually producing revenue, I think a business bank account is worth it. No question about that. We got the Bargain Effect. Hello and good afternoon. Good afternoon, Bargain Effect. I wonder what you sell. I'd like to hear about that. We also got Diana Gladney and DSLR Dave. Great content. I'll watch this live stream from the beginning and later on. Well, thank you so much for joining us, DSLR Dave. Dave is so gifted, a wonderful graphic designer, helps me with my thumbnails and other graphic design needs. If you need someone like that, just reach out in the comments to DSLR Dave. Okay, now we got another comment here. Lots of online business nowadays selling using social media. Are they legal or do they need to get a business license? Well, it just depends on your jurisdiction. If you're in your jurisdiction, a business license is required for a home-based business, then arguably that's true. I really agree with a lot of people using social media as an advertising platform. That's what it was created for. It was created to get people's attention and to sell to them. So we did it. I think we talked in our last live on Saturday about the need for you to think about social media as advertising, not some sort of creation platform that exists for you. No, to understand that it's a free service and it has lots of robust features, and it helps you get the word out so you can drag your community to things you can control, like your website or maybe a Patreon account one of those platforms that has a paywall behind it, because again, for all your hard work, you deserve some compensation. So use social media as an advertising platform. And if you do that, make sure it's according to your local regulations, it's following that. But a lot of jurisdictions, including I'm in Arizona right now, they don't have a home-based business license. So me using social media for my business is actually not against the law. No problem. I don't need to get a license for it. And many other jurisdictions are the same way. But I would it's worth a Google search of your local governmental authority to figure out if a business license, I would search, do I need a business license is required for your business. All right. So we're moving on to, okay. Here we go. We got bargain effect. I'm a full-time decal seller on multiple platforms. When should I consider going from sole proprietor to an LLC? Well, I think the biggest consideration there is your resources. Do you have in the neighborhood of $1,000 or so to pay for fees to set up your LLC, to pay for some tax? Some of the jurisdictions like California has a minimum tax per year for an LLC or corporation of $800. So is your business generating enough in the way of financial resources to pay for your LLC? If it is, if you're making a good profit and it's ready to go, then you also examine your potential liabilities. Are you online all the time? Are you making statements out there? Are you subject to a defamation lawsuit? Are you subject to a product defect? Maybe you're selling these decals and they could have a problem later on in time. What are your liabilities? If you feel that there's a minimal to a substantial risk in your business, I would then go about starting an LLC or corporation. My particular preference is an LLC. And the reason why that is, an LLC can function as a kind of a sole proprietor, a business entity for a sole proprietor, a single member LLC, or it can also function as a large corporation for taxing purposes. So what's nice about it is that if, let's just say you blew up, I mean, let's just say the bargain effect became the #1 decal seller in the world, then it's very easy for you to transition into a corporation type feel for your taxation if you're using an LLC. So that's really wonderful. And what's great about LLCs is that you can rest better at night, knowing that there's an additional layer of protection of your personal assets. You really, sometimes it's very difficult, understanding you're doing business out there and you could be subject to a lawsuit. And these days, people don't sue for $10,000. I'm joking, of course, some people do. But most of the lawsuits are big money, many millions of dollars. I'm suing you for $5 million. Do you want to risk your personal assets as a result of a potential lawsuit? The answer is no. For $1,000, getting some sort of protection of your personal assets makes sense. If you want more on what I call a YouTube LLC, which is just a normal LLC, but it's designed for YouTubers like maybe yourself, go to my video. I'll put a link in the description. I did a whole video on it. It talks about the ins and outs of LLCs in general, how to start your first LLC, how to run your LLC. So just look for that in the comment section after the video. We're going to move to Quade Feller. I'm starting a done for you mail service. Oh, done for you mail service, crafting 30-day daily email sequences for people. I like that. List of brand loyalty with their customers. What do I need? All right. Well, first of all, I love that. We need more of those people that help us with email sequences, because email is really, really a great way now for the people are using to cull through all the noise. It's wonderful if you have certain interests to have an email newsletter and they just deliver to you content in your email and you can read it whenever you want to. So I like that. What you need to do, first of all, of course, is you need to secure that domain name. You need to pick that name. You need to do research on Google to see if there's other businesses that have the similar name that you want. You need to go to the USPTO, US Patent and Trademark Office, and do just a search to see what trademarks surround your potential name. Do any other kind of word of mouth. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, and say, hey, listen, I'm thinking of calling this business parrot.com, and I'm doing email sequencing letters or services. Does that make sense? Do you like that? And get their feedback on that. Once you get that, make sure you secure that domain name. Make sure you file for a doing business as, or whatever term is current in your jurisdiction, letting people know that you're using that name. And then you need to move on after that to set up a bank account. Make sure any revenue you're making from that business is going into the business bank account, and things like subscriptions to Google, Docs or something, upgrading Kajabi or any of those online services, you're paying out of your business account. What's also great is that if you have a business bank account, you can get credit in the name of your business. So you're almost multiplying your business's resources by getting a business bank account. You put in $1,000 into your business bank account. I've seen many times banks offer you $5,000 credit line, or they give you a corporate credit card with a $10,000 line. I'm not saying you go charge up stuff that you can't pay for, but I am saying that in that initial stage where you haven't brought in a lot of revenue, you can use these resources to be able to you get even more revenue. So there's a lot of advantages to that. And then we're going to get into the other steps in just a moment. Just make sure I got everything here. IPO Nerd, love his channel, filed for a trademark and will file for an LLC soon. Thanks, brother. Well, listen, thank you. Absolutely smart. He's got his trademark filing going. If you need to know more about filing trademarks, I made a video about that. I will put that link in the description also to figure out, what's the process. You can go to an attorney. You can drop $2,500 to $5,000 for a trademark, but you could do it yourself. And in this video, the trademark video, I show you how to do it. Listen, it takes a little bit of time. I'm not lying to you that you should set aside an afternoon to go through the process, but it tells you step by step how to do your own trademark. Additionally, you should also check out that LLC video, get that thing set up so that you can protect your personal liabilities. All right, let's move on to the next step of your corporate adventure. So we've talked about the passion project, the fact you need your passion. We've talked about securing that name, and we've talked about setting up that bank account. So now what we're going to talk about is insurance. One of my favorite topics. I am an insurance nerd. I did a lot of insurance litigation work when I was a lawyer, and I believe wholeheartedly in insurance. And the reason why I do is because generally the cost to procure insurance is very small, and it provides you with a lot of mitigation of risk properties. So what I mean by that is, I don't know what your house or your apartment cost is for insurance, but I'm guessing it's in the $400 to $1,000 range per year. Now, what does that provide you? Well, that provides you that if, God forbid, someone comes after you and you just choose to defend yourself, that you have a means to defend yourself if there's a lawsuit later on if you've hurt someone. In other words, you have liability protection. You have protection when someone comes to your house and slips and falls and now they need medical attention. You, of course, have protection for your apartment, your home, if someone breaks in and steals stuff, or if your house is burned down. So there's lots of benefits to personal insurance. There's also lots of benefits to commercial insurance. Now, there's tons and tons of different types of commercial insurance. What I'm recommending to you as you move from the business bank account, the DBA level, the next step is to find a commercial insurance broker in your area. And you want to tell this person, someone maybe that's recommended to you, that you have a small business, maybe a small online business that you need business insurance for. He or she is probably going to recommend commercial general liability insurance. That's commercial general liability insurance. And oftentimes that will protect you in situations where your business is destroyed. Your business goes down for something, the unforeseen condition. It's going to pay your lost profits, your lost income in that situation. It's also going to fend off lawsuits against you. Let's say you're sued for defamation. Let's say you're sued for copyright infringement. This CGL policy is there to protect you. Now, when I say protect you, it's kind of a broad term. What do I mean protect? I'm going to bottom line you. Protect in the insurance context means you take that lawsuit that you've been served, you email it to your insurance company, and they pay for your attorneys to defend you. And later on in time, if there's a settlement or a judgment, they pay that settlement or judgment. So it's a very, I don't know what business insurance is going to be for you, but between $500 and, it goes up, depends on your limits, but $500 and $1,500 a year, you're going to have good protection for your business. That's another layer of protection against your personal assets, right? You're going to have insurance. Eventually, you're going to have an LLC or a corporation. So that's going to make you sleep even better at night, knowing that you have these protections. Now, once you kind of start making a little bit more money, you can consider using or having employer's liability insurance. These days with employees, you never know if an employee is going to go out. Maybe he doesn't like you, and sue you, maybe for discrimination or harassment. Employer's liability will protect you from that. It will pay for an attorney to defend you. It will pay for settlement or judgment of that case. And the kind of the big one is cyber liability, right? These days, we're taking in a lot of data from our customers, and sometimes we don't even know it. But we're taking it in. We're, email, newsletters, cookies on our websites. All this personal information is coming in, and it's subject to being hacked. All we hear about in the news these days are hacks. Cyber liability insurance is there to protect not only your business, but also lawsuits by your customers saying, dude, you allowed this hacker to come in and steal my personal data to my detriment. He took my personal data and he assumed my identity and ran up credit card bills. And now I want you to pay for that because you didn't do a good job of preventing this hack. That cyber liability insurance will pay for your attorneys, pay for settlement or judgment of that lawsuit. It also, sometimes we get in a situation we're hacked and maybe the customers are affected, but maybe we're more affected. Our business is affected. We can't do business because of this hack. The insurance can come in and pay your lost business income in case this hack totally destroys your business. So again, it's usually an addendum or an addition to your CGL policy. I don't know. It depends on the broker, but $500, $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is, to give you liability protection when someone sues you for a potential hack. So that is another big, important step to creating a big money business. That is making sure you have the appropriate insurance. And if anyone asks the question, well, what insurance should I have? You should start with CGL insurance or potential. A lot of times CGL insurance has property insurance attached to it, but you should start with CGL insurance. You can usually get it affordably in your jurisdiction. You don't need to have exorbitant limits. You don't need to have a $5 million limit. You can have between $500 and $1 million limits for an affordable price, and that will give you protection, especially if you don't have a corporation or an LLC in place. That's going to be your buffer to protect your personal assets in case you're ever sued. So highly recommend that. Let's look at questions. What's the difference between LLC and LTD? My understanding is an LTD is like a corporation, and an LLC is kind of an amorphous corporate entity. In other words, it can function kind of like a sole proprietorship. Your business profits and losses can flow through your personal tax return, but it can also be transformed if you do a certain filing with your local tax authority to a corporation. In other words, being taxed kind of like members have taxation, the corporation has separate taxation. So an LTD would be more like a corporation, a larger corporation. All right, so we got Diana Wilson. I am a huge fan of having insurance for everything. Me too. And I also recommend that you get travel insurance. Some of these countries are requiring you have travel insurance if you fly to them. But travel insurance is great. A lot of times it protects from delays. It'll pay you amounts of money if there are delays, lost airplane ticket costs, luggage costs, certainly medical treatment if you get hurt in the country you're visiting or the trip you're doing. So highly recommend all sorts of insurance. And I'm not selling insurance anymore. I don't like that business. All right, we got Highlander 9936. Great information. Can you use LegalZoom service to start a business? Yes, I highly recommend it. LegalZoom and the others. So you can start a corporation or LLC yourself, no problem. It just takes a lot of learning, and there's a lot of filing, and there's a lot of different intricacies based upon your jurisdiction. So what LegalZoom, what a People's Choice legal document preparation, which is at peopleschoice.com, what these services do is they just take that away from you for a reasonable price. It's worth it. It depends on where you're going, but between $299 and $499, you can have a corporation or an LLC formed, and you kind of don't even get involved in the process. You set your name in, you set your address, you put your business name, and they take care of it for you. So it's kind of a mid position between doing it yourself and hiring a lawyer to do it, and it doesn't cost that much money. So yeah, LegalZoom does a great job, and then a peopleschoice.com also does a great job. We got Mia Ferreira. I love your determination and professionalism. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I just love that you're out there on eight in the morning on a Saturday. I just love starting my day, getting everything going, trying to help some people out there with some of the stuff that I've come across in my time. So really happy that you're out there. All right, let's finish this thing here. We talked about insurance being very important. Now we're going to move on to the next one, and that is. Oh, that is contracts. This image right here. I was trying to think of an image that would represent contracts other than like a page with words on it, which could be a book or could be anything. So this is an agreement. You need to get your business contracts in place. So for the viewer who was talking about starting email list business, I could imagine that person needing a virtual assistant. I could imagine that person needing a videographer. I could imagine that person maybe needing some sort of research assistant to help with the writing of the emails and the sequences and the letters and things like that, the newsletters. So you got to make sure before you get going too fast that you have independent contractor agreements with all your different team members. Over time, maybe your business will expand and you will have employees, and you may or may not have agreements with your employees. But at least in the beginning, like me, I have to have independent contractors to do what I do. So I make sure that I have all those agreements. Where the hell do you get all those agreements? Pardon my language. Well, you can go to iancorzine.com and get your independent contractor agreement, your videographer agreement, your editor agreement, your podcast agreement, all those different things you can get at iancorzine.com in the legal template section. But otherwise, what you can do is you can go to all sorts of different legal sites and find templates for these forms. You can even do a good internet search on Google or DuckDuckGo, and you can find other, independent contractor agreements that are out there and modify it for your own purposes. I would advise that you do it. You get a form that was drafted for a lawyer that maybe was drafted for your type of business, or at least you having an online business. That's why I drafted my forms to help creators, people out there who are doing social media, have really ironclad independent contractor agreements. But now we move on to why you need these agreements. Not only is it great to get clarity on your responsibilities, what monies do you owe this independent contractor, but also it's really good to have clarity as far as what the deliverables are from this independent contractor, what they're supposed to do, what rights and remedies they have. And then also it's a great way, it's a risk transfer mechanism also, because you build into these independent contractor agreements clauses that limit your liability going forward. So it's kind of another layer of protection for your business to have these contracts in place. In other words, you in this independent contractor agreement, you might waive your right to a jury trial. And what that means is that any dispute that arises with your videographer, he says you owed him $500, you said you only owe him $250. Any dispute doesn't go to court. It goes to a private dispute resolution center like mediation or arbitration. So you can kind of control any potential disputes that exist for your business through these contracts. So like I said, one of the initial steps when you're creating this big money business that hopefully is going to grow really, really fast is having the right contracts. What's the risk if you don't have the right contracts? That risk is anything can happen. There's no control over potential disputes. You may have to, the difference in the bill, like I said before, is the videographer says that you owe him $500 and you owe $250. Well, guess what? The guy is crazy and he wants to take you to court, and it's going to cost you $10,000 to defend the fact that you owe him $250. Now, listen, probably the dispute's going to be settled over time, but why even get there? Why not be able to control the dispute, and if it's drafted for you in your favor, using contracts to help you along the way? So really, really big thing as far as starting your business is contracts. And again, if you need a starting place, go to iancorzine.com, scroll down to the legal template section. What I did there is I tried to envision what all of you would need for your business. So, a lot of us are doing online stuff. A lot of us are needing editors for our social media. I came up with an editor, independent contractor. I have a kind of a broad general independent contractor. Sometimes, it's something that we don't, not all of us need. So we need kind of a general contract that can be customed for your particular need. So all those type of contracts, again, are in the legal template section of iancorzine.com. All right. We're moving on to Kim, business name, Kim Laughs. Kim Laughs is the name I want. I like that. Not trademarked. I have the web domain name. Awesome. I'm really excited to go to kimlaughs.com. No YouTubers with this name. If you search YouTube URL channel with different name, no vids shows up. Help. All right. Well, that looks great. It looks like you not only have analyzed what your passion project is going to be, but then you've done the due diligence to go ahead and get that domain name. The other thing I'd recommend is that you do domain names that are similar. So you have Kim Laughs. So I would attempt to get Kim Laugh. I would attempt to get Kim Laughs, Laffs. Anything that's Kim with a C or Kimberly Laughs. But try to get all those domain names in case later on in time you need to protect those. And you can use those as funnels to the actual Kim Laughs site. So important to do that too. But the next step in your journey, of course, is you got the name, is making sure you have the appropriate license. So just look around, do a due diligence search to figure out in your jurisdiction, is there a business license needed? Are there any other licenses you need for this Kim Laughs business? Are there a need to purchase licenses and in a different meaning for the content you're going to use? So kind of analyze the legalities of what you're going to need there. And then, of course, the business bank account, the insurance is needed. And then, of course, you need to have those contracts in place. So what is Kim Laughs? Who's on the team of Kim Laughs? Are you going to need a virtual assistant? If you are, don't rely on the kind of lame agreement that the virtual assistant sends you. And I don't mean to project that all the virtual assistants have a lame agreement, but I've worked with many, and a lot of times it's very kind of homemade. Get your own in place. You always want to be in control of your contracts. Before you sign up with someone, you have something in place for yourself and say, listen, this is what I suggest. And what you suggest is generally written in your favor. And if you can get the other side to agree to that, you have more control over that business interaction. So think about the team you're going to need now, and maybe as you expand, and get those contracts in place so that when you find your dream VA, that literally the next communication is an email with a PDF with your agreement. And a lot of times the VAs will just go, okay, that looks good to me. We move on. And then you control the relationship so that you don't have a situation where you're being dragged to court and having the need for insurance and corporate entity protection. Okay, I spilled liquid over my laptop. Turns out my girlfriend, who I live with, rents in her name and apparently had some electronics damage insurance on it without us knowing. Saved us 2,000 euros. That's unbelievable. Insurance is a difficult thing because insurance policies are written in like old English, certainly legalese. They're very hard to understand. One of the values that I offered when I was in the insurance industry is that I could kind of translate insurance policies and the case law that attached to them into, everyday person language. So I think the best part is to work with a knowledgeable commercial broker. If you have a very good commercial insurance broker, they're going to know the coverages pretty well. Then I think you should do your own research, go on to the actual insurance company's website, figure out what they say it covers. And then if it was a big loss, I mean, we're talking a bad situation where, $100,000 business income loss, $1 million loss, I would always advise you speak to counsel first because the insurance company doesn't want to pay your bill. So you're going to want to talk to someone who has kind of an objective eye to say, listen, this is generally covered. There's a case that says that this is covered. So you should use this case in order to get that coverage. So insurance is not as easy as just, have a loss, they pay it. You have to understand what's covered, and you have to understand that it's a little bit of an adversarial relationship. If you know that, it's a no-brainer because oftentimes the insurance is way cheaper than all the liabilities it covers for you. Diana Wilson, do you have NDAs on the website? That is something I like to use with my contacts for client work. Absolutely, I do. On iancorzine.com in the legal template section, there is an NDA disclosure agreement. It's kind of a longer agreement. I actually think that non-disclosure agreements are really the future of intellectual property law. In the old days, we had a lot of strong protection with copyrights and trademarks, potentially patents, if that was what you were doing. You're doing an invention. But these days, it's so hard to enforce. You guys know as well as I do. Go on YouTube right now. You're going to see tons of copyrighted content, tons of copyrighted infringement going on. and there's no remedy. I mean, yeah, you could sue, but where does the person live? Oftentimes they live way far away. It's hard to get jurisdiction. So non-disclosure agreements are a great way to control your intellectual property. So we have a business about email sequencing. You have a really unique take on it. You want to hire a VA. Part of that independent contractor agreement, or you have a separate non-disclosure agreement, is that VA, if she or he works out, will never disclose for the period of 2 years your business model, your ideas. If they do, there's an automatic penalty that attaches, and they could potentially be sued in court. So that gives them pause about releasing your ideas to them, and maybe them potentially using it for themselves or passing it on to someone to use. So really highly recommend non-disclosure agreements. It's the future of intellectual property law, and it's available on iancorzine.com. All right. Oh, Quaid says, I messaged you on LinkedIn. I might have some more questions. Okay. Absolutely, Quaid. That's another way to reach me. I think I'm checking mostly, obviously, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Instagram to a certain extent too, but oftentimes the DMs don't come through for some reason. But yeah, feel free to contact me. I'm eminently searchable. It's Ian Corzine on LinkedIn. It's at Ian Corzine on Twitter, at Ian Corzine on Instagram. Basically every social media platform. I mean, including Odyssey. It's Ian Corzine. So if you need to reach me at any of those places, just feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help. All right, Kim says, to add to my question, the person with Kim Laughs YouTube URL has a different YouTube channel named Kimberly Burns. Any way to override that YouTube URL? One way, and that is contacting the owner of the channel and asking if there's a way you could enter into an arrangement in which you could purchase that name. They could change their URL. It happens all the time. It's an informal arrangement. A lot of people do. Not only are there domain squatters out there, I'm sure you've heard of them. They're always buying every single domain they can think of, but there also are YouTube domain spotters. In other words, or squatters, excuse me. They are out there to have these names that they think are going to be valuable that can be purchased later on. So that's the only way that I've successfully seen it. I mean, short of knowing someone in YouTube and having a favor done for you, that's the only way, is to enter into an agreement and to take over that domain or that YouTube channel name. All right. Of course, Quaid, anytime. All right. So let's move on. I think we have some more steps to creating a big money business, but I got to put this on the screen. All right. So we talked about contracts. Now we're moving to one of the biggest tips, and I know it's simple, but a certified public accountant, an accountant, whatever the parlance is in your jurisdiction, having a CPA for your business is vital. And I know it can cost some money. I have a CPA for my businesses, and sometimes there are some bills that are involved. But I will say this, and I've said this story many times. When I was younger, I was doing my American income taxes on TurboTax, and it was fine. It worked great, no problem. One year I decided, listen, I think I'm going to pay, I think it was $750 to a CPA to do my taxes. And, 5 years prior of taxes done on TurboTax, paying some money in taxes, and then same income from the last time I used TurboTax to the CPA's involvement. And I just expected, I'm making it up, $5,000 for my taxes. And the CPA was able to zero out my taxes using things that I had no idea existed. And yes, I had to pay the CPA at the end of the day $1,000. But for $1,000, I did not have to pay $5,000 in taxes. And the CPA didn't do anything hinky. He just did what he just knows all the different intricacies of the tax code and was able to find deductions and things like that that would reduce my tax liability. That $1,000 check is a $1,000 check that I would write every year to be able to save thousands and thousands in taxes. And ever since then, I learned my lesson. Having a qualified advisor, whether it be your doctor, whether it be your lawyer, whether it be your CPA, yes, it costs money, but at the end of the day, they save you money. And having a CPA there at your side is wonderful. Where do you find a CPA and an accountant? Best way to do it is through referral. These days in social media, it's even easier than you think. I'm using Nextdoor. I don't know if you know that app, but it's this app for your local neighborhood as my primary way to get referrals in my new neighborhood. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona now. and I don't have a lot of connections. So I just, recommended CPAs or accountants, and I'm getting, dozens of responses. Then the next step is to interview those CPAs or accountants and make sure that you jibe with that personality, because you're going to see some CPAs that are really letter of the law, by the book, no exceptions, aren't open to different possibilities for your business. Then you're going to find CPAs that are on the other side that are really looking and searching out, analyzing your particular business and finding those hidden deductions that most people don't know about. So in my opinion, having a CPA or an accountant in the middle is the best. Someone that's, of course, according to the law, but is also looking out for tax planning strategies for you in the future so that you can increase your business income, make big money with your new business. So part and parcel of this process of starting a business, coming up with a good name, getting that licensure in effect, making sure you have the right insurance, considering forming an LLC or a corporation, or just staying small for the meantime as a sole proprietor. Regardless of all those steps, figure out who's going to be your trusted advisor for finances. That person often can do not only your corporate income taxes and tax strategy, but also, for a kind of a little bit more addition, will do your personal, so that he or she has the ability to kind of, mold your financial future. You really should be saving here. You really should, if you did this, you could save this. If you contributed to this retirement program, you can make more money here. Instead of renting, have you considered trying to buy an affordable house, because you'll get an interest deduction? Things like that are really, really vital to creating a big money business in the future. So can't recommend it enough. I think that's my biggest recommendation for starting your business, is making sure you have a CPA. I love corporate entities. I love insurance, but CPA is number one in my mind. So, okay. All right. Is there Kim Lanning says, is there a contract for asking for a YouTube channel name? I don't have one. I'm happy to work with you, Kim, if you just want to message me on something like that. I imagine that I could certainly draft something up. It's basically an intellectual property transfer in the vein of a copyright license, like kind of borrowing content. So no problem there. But that's a great way to be able to secure that YouTube channel for sure. Kim says, you are the bomb. So much great info. One more. Do we need to have contracts in place for people we interview and include in YouTube videos? Kim, you're hitting me. You're giving me softballs. Yes, you do. Why is that? Well, I work with a lot of creators, and a lot of creators love doing collabs, right? They love working with one another. They like mixing teams, and that's all great when you get along, when you have this initial inclination to do this project together. But if you don't set it out in writing, things can get hairy. I've seen this many times where one YouTuber agrees to do a collab with another YouTuber, and everything's going good, right? And then the video is done. Maybe one of the YouTubers volunteers to have the editing done, or they do the editing. And then they say, listen, I'm not only going to publish this video with you on it, but I just got a sponsor called, and they want to sponsor this video. And I was thinking about the water company, Liquid Death, right? It's a very popular water company now. They have water in cans. Well, maybe your channel is kids, maybe you do kids content. And even though Liquid Death is just a provocative name for bottled water, you don't want to be associated with Liquid Death. So maybe you call the collab partner and say, listen, I don't want that video to go up. I don't want you to do the sponsorship. And the other creator's like, dude, it's $5,000. I mean, that's a lot of money. I can share it with you, or something like that. And you go, well, I don't really want to share. I mean, I'm happy to have money, but I don't want to share it because I don't want to be associated with a brand called Liquid Death when I have a children's channel. Well, what happens if you had a collaboration agreement before that is that probably the children's creator would have the right to opt out. Going into the relationship, it would have to be kind of a veto system. If either is not happy with the final product, or if there's some new addition like this brand being involved in this collaboration, either or has the right to veto it. What are the responsibilities on social media? Some people you collab with, they just want your stuff, right? And so they start broadcasting that, there's an interview with Ian and you don't like the social media posts. Maybe they're negative or whatever. You need to be able to control that. You need to say, listen, that is against the contract. So having a collab agreement having agreements with the people that appear on your podcast is great. What happens if you have a podcast that goes great and maybe the podcast video goes viral, but for maybe not the reason that the guest wanted it to happen? Maybe the guest said a swear word or did something provocative and doesn't want to be known forever on social media. So if there's no agreement in place, it's very possible that the social media or the podcast guest could sue you and saying, listen, I never authorized that. You never told me that you were going to make this available on TikTok for 15-second clips. So as a result, I'm suing you for all the damage it caused to my reputation when I, burped on the podcast. So you just don't want to get entwined in this stuff. You really want to write a rule book for guests, for your collab partners. You want to have it up there so you're clear, right? So that up front, you know what's expected of you, you know what the other person is entitled to, and you can comply with that logically. Again, also control the dispute if it exists. Move it to a less costly area. All disagreements related to this agreement will be handled in mediation. Mediation can cost $500. All right. A mediation determination is final. All right. So for $500, you can completely eliminate a $10,000 dispute. Yes, you could lose, but at least you don't have all that money spent going to court for years. So yes, highly recommend having those agreements. And the reason why it's a softball, Diana, is that, or actually I take that back, Kim, is because yes, you can get those agreements, those appearance agreements, those guest release agreements on iancorzine.com in the legal templates section. Just go onto the website, scroll down, you'll see a legal templates shop. Click on that, you'll be able to have it. It's kind of a nice little process. What ends up happening is, because I was trying to brainstorm people who didn't want to deal with legalities and legalese. A lot of these people that sell templates, they send you a Word doc and has all these blanks, but you don't know what goes in the blanks. You really don't want to mess with the legal language. What you really want is you want the essential data in the form done, right? So how I've worked out my templates is you fill out a Google form with your name, maybe your address, maybe the amount of the contract, maybe some certain provisions of the contract. You click submit on that Google form, and then automatically you are emailed the completed contract that literally you could print right then and there, or you could email right then and there, and it's all filled in. It's ready to go. You don't have to deal with the legal stuff. Really wanted to take that out of your mind as far as the worry of messing up a legal contract and not being able to enforce it. Okay, here's Diana saying there's nothing simple about a CPA. There are so many bad ones out there. They're like used car salesmen. Well, Diana, there are plenty of CPAs out there that are difficult. That's why it's really important for you to get referrals to the right one for you. And I'm not saying it's easy to find that one, but it's not easy to find the right real estate agent. It's not easy to find the right lawyer. It's certainly not easy to find the right doctor these days. So I say be dogged, continue in your pursuit of finding the right CPA, because in the end, she is going to save you, I think, many thousands of dollars for your business that's growing. We got 101 Hamilton. Should the LLC be the same name as the business YouTube channel name? Well, that's handled in my YouTube LLC video, which I'm going to put in a comment, or I'm going to put a description. I'm going to put a link in the description section of this video. But I like that. It kind of depends. Or what I mean is I like that. I like when you have your YouTube channel name be the name of the LLC. It helps you kind of understand that that's your YouTube LLC. See, I think I'm very excited and believing in you guys. I think this is just the start of your business. I think when you have a YouTube business or an online business, that's just the beginning. I think you're going to want to diversify. I think you're going to want to have a real estate business. In other words, you're going to want to hopefully buy homes or apartments and rent those out, short-term rentals, long-term rentals. I think you might have an investment business. So it's nice to have different business entities for all your businesses. So if the name of your YouTube channel is the same name as your LLC, it keeps it very convenient and easy. And it also makes it easy later on in time. God forbid you get sued, but regardless. So that's a good strategy. However, I myself actually have opted not to have my name be the name of my LLC. And those are just for reasons that, I don't need my personal name on the LLC when I really want to keep my personal stuff aside. So that's why I've chosen to have a different name for my LLC. I also really wanted to be able to branch out with my business. For my LLC that handles my YouTube stuff and other social media stuff, it does a lot of different things. So if I called it, Ian Corzine YouTube channel LLC, it wouldn't make sense. So I really wanted to have some breadth to my name. But if you are just starting out and you want to get an LLC that really handles your YouTube business, you're doing affiliate links, you're doing brand deals, then yeah, call your name. That's a real viable strategy. And then later on, when you have a real estate business, call it, something else. Official Insta love from Pakistan. Great to see you. Thank you so much for joining from Pakistan. That's awesome. I want to visit your country someday. All right. Kimling. Also, thanks for explaining the softball comment. Not really into sports. Wasn't sure if that's a good thing or not. No, softballs are great. And obviously what that means is that I'm appreciative of you leading me into talking about my legal templates for sale on iancorzine.com. So yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to do just a brief review for people who tuned in a little bit late about the 7 steps to legally start a big money business. I'm going to put this right here, and we're going to do just a quick little review. All right. So first things first. Find your passion. You're going to be doing this for a long time. Don't start down a road that you don't want to do. Maybe you start a beer business and then, 2 years in, you don't drink anymore. That sucks. So you want to find the passion, something that's going to last the test of time. You need to do a lot of research into your business name. It's important. It's an important part of the process. How do you do it? Google searches, finding out if there's other businesses with your name. You can specify your name. It could be Beer Brewery of Scottsdale, Arizona. You can kind of make it more specific. Do a U.S. PTO search, a U.S. patent and trademark search by going to uspto.gov and doing a trademark search, finding out if anybody's trademarked this name. If someone has trademarked this, you probably don't want to do it. You probably don't even want to do modifications of this business name because you could be sued later on for trademark infringement. Then you also want to bounce it off colleagues. Does the name of the business that you have, is that something that's really going to remind them of your business function? You don't want a situation. You could do the Google thing, Google named their business Google, and that doesn't communicate search engine or whatever, or advertising, which it does. But that was done for a purpose. That was a trademark purpose. But generally, you want your business name to mirror what you do. It helps people identify with your product. So a lot of little research that goes into that. You also got to do a little research into licensing for your business. In your jurisdiction, is there a requirement that if you have a home-based business, you need a business license? Pay $12 a year. Maybe there's not. Is there some states in America have state licenses or county licenses, which is another political subdivision of America. Sometimes you got to get those licenses. What if you do sell beer? You're going to need an alcohol license. What if you have a massage service? What if you have a sort of spa service? A lot of these services or these businesses require some sort of licensure. You don't want to continue on the road of your business if you've not investigated that and figured out, I needed a license. So then, of course, business bank account helps you in a number of ways. One is it keeps you from commingling your personal and business funds separate. Your business about email sequences, any income that you get from that goes in the business bank account. Any expenses you have come out of that bank account. It also helps you with corporate credit. Generally, when you start a business bank account, Chase Bank or Wells Fargo Bank or whatever bank you have comes to you and says, hey, see that you've started this business. Would you like a business credit card? A lot of times that business credit card limit is $5,000, $10,000. That's going to give you additional capital to be able to create that big money business that you want. A lot of value there. Insurance. Insurance has a lot of huge benefits for not a lot of cost. There are challenges. There is the fact that the insurance company was trying to find ways not to pay the claim. But generally, making sure that you have CGL, commercial general liability insurance for your business initially is not going to cost that much, especially if you have a smaller business, $500 to $1,500. It's going to protect you against liabilities like for defamation, like for copyright infringement, like if someone slips and falls on your business premises. If there's business interruption, there's some sort of unanticipated condition that prevents your business from succeeding. You're going to get some business income coverage to bridge that gap, to pay that lease, to pay those subscriptions during the time when you're not making money. Really valuable. Later on, you start to have employees. You'll need workers' compensation insurance. You also may need employers' liability insurance. That'll protect you from lawsuits. As we said, protection means pay for your attorneys. You don't have to pay for your own attorneys. The insurance company pays for your attorneys, and the insurance company pays for settlement of the case or judgment if it goes, past the jury and there's an actual judgment. Agreements. Before you get going on your business, who are you going to need in your team to make sure this business turn into a big money business? You're going to want to have contracts ready so that when you sign up with that editor, when you sign up with that videographer, when you sign up with that VA, you have agreement ready that goes boom, and it protects you primarily. Certainly it's going to protect the independent contractor, but it's primarily designed to be drafted in your favor. You're going to want to have that. You can get that at iancorzine.com in the legal templates section. Finally, as we talked about, while sometimes finding CPAs is difficult, I absolutely agree with that. Go out, use Nextdoor, use apps to be able to find, or just talk to people to find the best CPA or accountant you possibly can to help you mitigate your tax bill. And like I said, it really does work. When you find the right person, it allows you to go places with your business that you didn't think. You're going to be able to pay less tax. You're going to be able to use the money that you saved for additional business opportunities. And again, I'm not a CPA. I'm not selling it. I'm just telling you from my personal experience that CPAs, the right ones, have actually saved me many thousands and thousands of dollars. So that is our talk in a nutshell today. Just going to get to do some last minute questions here. Kristen Nation, Ian, could you do some channel reviews and mention the types of forms they need for their businesses? Yeah, that's actually a really great idea, Kristen. Yeah. Do some case studies to point out, this particular YouTube channel uses a lot of copyrighted content, so they'll need licenses. This particular YouTube channel sells an online course, so they're going to need, a contract between the online course provider. They're going to need a contract with maybe the videographer who made the videos that are in the course. I think it's a really, really good idea. Thank you, Kristen. I'll do it. Generic says, if you set up your business entity properly, how difficult is it to pierce the corporate veil? Well, generally the law has been written so it's difficult, right? The law and people who've drafted the legislation, big corporations, don't want people to be able to pierce the corporate veil easily. Otherwise, why do we even have business entities, right? So usually it's a larger burden. But here's how you make it easier to have the pierce happen. And so everyone's clear, when we say pierce the corporate veil, what we mean is allow a creditor to be able to access our personal assets. So good example. I have a business selling GoPro equipment, right? There is a dispute between one of my vendors and myself. The vendor sues me and sues not only my company, Ian Corzine GoPro, but also sues me personally. All right. And he alleges, listen, I did not observe corporate formalities. And as a result, the law should treat me, my personal status, as the same as my corporate status. And therefore, any monies that are owed in that lawsuit or in that action to the vendor should come from not only my corporate assets, but also my personal assets, my house or my car. All right. So that's what piercing the corporate veil means. Now, how you stop that happening is you do not commingle your personal funds with your business funds. You observe any corporate formalities that exist with respect to your particular corporate entity. So if you have a corporation, you're going to want to have directors and shareholders. You're going to want to have meetings that are required by your state or your county or your country. There's different requirements depending upon your Canada or Australia or America or England or France or whatever. So you need to follow the rules of a corporation. And if you follow the rules, you do not commingle funds, then that lawsuit by that vendor will not succeed, at least against me personally, maybe against my corporation, but not me personally. So if the corporation, this lawsuit only has $1,000, but the debt is $10,000, the vendor could only possibly get $1,000 at the end of the day and not leak into my personal assets. So the answer over to your question is it's difficult. Let's keep it that way by making sure you have a business bank account. And I don't care how small your business is, have a business bank account so that you're showing the world that you are keeping things separate between your business funds and your personal funds. Serendipity Bakery. I see people starting online classes for everything. Absolutely. It's so late. About 5 years ago, it was new. Now it's late. YouTube related, and they think they don't need to follow state laws regarding online schools. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. We see it all the time. Someone's going to get bit in the butt. And I think, one of these state entities is going to file a lawsuit against one of the larger course providers because you're absolutely right. There are certain online educational requirements, especially in more progressive states like California, New York, and Florida, you've got to follow. So before, one of that third step I talked about cannot be underestimated. Once you got that name, once you've secured the domain name, once you've secured your YouTube, TikTok name, make sure you do tons of research into what licensure you need, what are the requirements for your particular business. Otherwise, you're going to get shot down. You're going to face civil penalties and fines, and you could possibly be sued by the state or potential students that you had for the online course. So be careful. It's not as simple as just coming up, with an idea for an online course, getting a videographer to film you, and then selling your course for $197. It's not as simple as that. You've got to comply with the formalities, otherwise you'll get shut down. Quaid is, I might need help to find all this out, what I need and everything, so I'm covered. It's set up properly. Yes, you will probably need some help. I'm happy to help. And let's look at Diana. Thanks so much, Ian. Have a wonderful weekend. Yes, you too. I want you guys to have a great weekend. It's been an honor to be here on a Saturday at 8 a.m. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. We're going to be back next Saturday. Going to Vid Summit this coming week. I'm really excited about that. Going to learn more about YouTube, about TikTok, about Instagram, and I'm going to bring some of those lessons to you, having attended this conference for 3 days with the top creators in the world. Only 1,000 attendees can go to this conference. I'm going to bring that to you next Saturday, what I've learned, so that I can give it to you and you can kill it an online business. Love you guys.